Hey everyone, welcome to another video from Nameless Things. So, about a year ago, I had a chance to interact with the director from Across the Spider-Verse. So, this was like about I think 6 or 5 months after the release of the movie, and there was like an online question and answer interactive session with the director of Across the Spider-Verse, Justin K Thompson, and I was like, damn, yeah, I have to be a part of this. So, I joined the session, but obviously it was very early in the morning here, and I had to mail in my questions pretty early, which I did, and I was a little anxious whether they would get missed or left out. But luckily, none of them were missed; they were all answered. But like I said, it was pretty early in the morning here in India when the call happened. So when I tried to record it, I did the screen recording because I was pretty new to learning how to record a meeting and everything like that. So the volume is pretty low because I wasn't ready to hear that kind of a volume so early in the morning, and also the volume was so low. I didn't want to disturb the others as well. So you might want to plug in your earphones and turn the volume up a bit to hear it better, but I have added in some subtitles, so that should help. Before we get into the video, be sure to hit the like button and share this with your friends, and do hit that subscribe button. That said, here's the video.
Scandon from our audience says, is there any sense of pressure while working on future projects, or while working on this project, to maintain or surpass the bar set so far, be it technically or story-wise?
Well, there's always going to be some pressure, but pressure is good, right? From pressure comes diamonds. And I think you have to sort of embrace that, and that the idea that it is difficult to make something great, we sort of embrace that, and we sort of just put that behind us and move forward. I mean, that's sort of always been my approach. Is if you're kind of scared, it's kind of good. It's kind of, if you think you might fail, then you're probably doing something good. And when I was the production designer on the first film, it was, I think the biggest difference between the two films for me is I was the production designer on the first film, working with Bob Persichetti and Peter Ramsey, and Rodney on the first film. And when I was trying to find the look for them on that film, we had the benefit of nobody knew we were doing anything, and when we were making that, we kind of just made a movie that, was appealing to us. And I think the philosophy, I just carried that forward. It was so successful. The audience responded so overwhelmingly. We didn't know what we had when we made it, but since the audience wanted it and seemed to respond so well, we said, well, that's just licensed to go even further. And kind of just felt like, there was so much unfinished business, things that in all the experimentation of the first film that we discovered, it just felt like here was my chance to step in this director role. And usually I would be in a situation where I would be like, hey, what if we did it this way? We could do it this, and you have to kind of almost get like approval from your director to kind of try something. And I always had so much support on the first film, but this was like straight from me to the screen. And there was nothing in between my weird ideas, and there were times I didn't know if things would work. And thankfully I had great directing partners with Kemp Powers and Joaquin DeSantos to be able to bounce stuff off and say, have I gone too far? And sometimes they'd say, reel it back just a little bit. But honestly, we were just trying to make a film that was exciting to us. And the fact that all of you have embraced it and the world has embraced it, is an amazing privilege and honor.
Dylan, and in our audience, and also Scandon, had a very similar question. What new software has had to be coded, and out of everything in the film, what part created the most technical hurdles?
Well, I wish I was like super technical. I'm actually like, I started out as a 2D artist, and so 3D kind of came late. It's been about 18 years I've been making 3D films, but so half my career. But I would say this, we were willing to use anything. We used Blender on this. We used Nuke. We used Maya, of course. But there was a lot of programs. Like there's a program called Rebel, which, if you have ever heard of it, it was used to do a lot of the painting work that you saw in Gwen's World and that you saw in Miguel O'Hara's world. A lot of the painting and rough artists had to still go in. I mean, that's the thing. This film really was done by hand, as much as it was done by computer. Rebel was a program that allowed artists to, like, early on we said, wouldn't it be cool if, it'd be cool if, like, you could see the world, like, get painted on screen. And I'm just the guy in the room going, it'd be cool if you could watch it get painted on. And, I just say these things, but somebody had to figure it out. And then ultimately what we found is, even though we had this software, Rebel, that allowed you to paint strokes on the screen in three-dimensional space, someone still had to go there by hand and place each one of those brush strokes. And then I had to sit there and look at it and go, that brush stroke is too big. Can you make that brush stroke smaller? And like, that one should go further back. And someone had to go in and like change the brush strokes. It was really painstaking and an amazing amount of work. What was the second part of the question? I'm so sorry.
Not to worry whatsoever. The second part of the question was, what part created the most technical hurdles?
Oh, yeah, my gosh. Spider-Punk absolutely was the most difficult. Spider-Punk was, it was the most fun. When we say difficult, it's like, I gotta say, like, the word difficult is like actually a misnomer, because I think it's actually really fun to try. I'm not just for me, but for the artists themselves. It's so rare in our industry that you get to do something truly different, even for the artists who have to do this work. Because I'm certainly not the one doing it. Like, I'm the one, like, kind of like coming up with silly ideas, and the people who have to figure this out. It's one thing. We had a lot of people come back from the first film, want to come on the second film, and they came back for the third film because we rarely get to do things that are truly challenging. And I think the challenge is, how do you solve a problem that no one ever solved before? And you come up with questions that no one's ever come up with before. And I think it's really fun. And with Spider-Punk, we said, okay, we started experimenting with doing things on twos. If you don't know, hopefully, if you don't know what that means, so in 1 second of film, there's 24 frames. So if you do it on twos, there's only 12 frames per second. And if you do it within, and that was like kind of like our style. But then we said Punk shouldn't follow any rules, because him as a character, it all goes back to character. Him as a character, he doesn't follow rules. And he's the guy who's trying to teach Miles that even though people are telling you there's all these rules and how your life is supposed to be, there really aren't. And you don't have to follow them, and you can make your own rules. So he had to be the living embodiment of that. So we said, he can't be on twos. He's got to be on twos and sixes and eights and 12s and 16s all at the same time. So he needs, and one part of his body has to be on eights. Another part of his body has to be on 12s. Another part. So, in other words, there's only, if it's on 12s, that means in a single second you might get only two poses. So there's a scene like they're walking through a hallway and he's talking to Miles and he's saying, your parents, what are they like? They sound like cool. And Miles is following Gwen. If you notice, like, his jacket is moving on one frame rate. His hands are moving on another frame rate. His face is moving on another frame rate. To get all that to work was a scientific problem that was fun to solve. And then giving the animators like knobs and tools, literally, that they could control that as a performance, that they could decide when it switches from different frame rates. And then also saying, well, he should never look the same. He shouldn't follow that rule either. He should be able to, like, we just, like, emotionally speaking, he should be able to, like, pop into a pose and, like, suddenly he's, like, pink and yellow, and then he's black and white, and then he's this. And he should be able to do it to hit emotional points that he's trying to make as he's speaking. Daniel Kaluuya's amazing voice performance, we wanted it was very dynamic and sort of spontaneous, the way he recorded that stuff. And we wanted the character to be able to respond in such a spontaneous way. So, getting all that to work took 3-4 years. We started at the very beginning. And I don't think we saw some of that until like the last 6 months. We were worried it wasn't even going to be able make it into the film for a minute. Like, it was like, is this gonna come together? But thankfully, our team is incredible, and they pulled it off.
Let me ask you this: what was the backup plan if it wasn't going to be able to be executed the way that you wanted? Was there a backup plan for that?
There is no backup plan.